Insane prophecy unveiled, Armageddon approaches Israel, are we living the final days? A shuddering silence cloaked the ancient city of Jerusalem, a place where history collided with prophecy, raising questions that hung like storm clouds over the dusty streets. The whispers of the locals grew louder, caught in the electric tension of a revelation that rattled the very core of their beliefs. They spoke of signs, and not just the usual omens: a blood moon bleeding in the sky, lightning split the skies every night, and strange symbols appeared in the clouds, swirling like a cosmic warning. The air was thick with a sense of impending doom, and every heartbeat echoed the question, was this the countdown to the end? Down in the alleys, shadows danced as frantic debate sparked feelings of fear and confusion. One old man, with eyes as deep as pits, claimed he had seen the angel of death hovering near the western wall. He had talked to passers-by, his voice ragged and haunted, saying ominous words about a great reckoning. Others shivered at the mere mention of his name, feeling a chill creep into their bones. Was he mad, or was this the truth they were too afraid to face? As the sun dipped below the horizon, the streets buzzed with frantic energy. A group gathered around an old TV set flashing breaking news. Reports poured in: mysterious fires engulfed olive groves, rivers turned blood red, and families vanished overnight without a trace. What was happening? The collective gasp of the crowd said it all. Tension crackled in the air, sweat clung to their foreheads as they exchanged fear-laden glances. Was this an awakening or a terrifying nightmare? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads-up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. With a jolt, a child's scream shattered the tension as she pointed at the sky. Above them swirled a cloud that twisted and morphed into a face, mocking their fears and hopes. Gasps echoed in the crowd, causing a ripple that surged through the sea of faces. What was the world trying to tell them? People were now crying, others praying desperately. As the eyes of the crowd were fixed on the cosmos, the ground beneath their feet trembled slightly, a warning tremor that whispered of change. But change lay ahead, looming larger than they could ever imagine. What force was at play? Was this the moment when everything would unravel? What awaited them beyond the edge of the unknown? The night deepened, and with it, the sense of dread in Jerusalem intensified. The cloud face lingered for what felt like an eternity, a grotesque grin etched against the starlit sky. Then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the cloud dissipated, leaving behind a pale reminder that the unbelievable was unfolding before them. The air crackled with energy, as if the universe itself was about to rupture. People stumbled backward, their gazes locked upward, each one searching for meaning in the impossible. Then came the whispers, thick with fear. Is it a warning? Are we marked? The chill in the air felt sharper, cutting through their skin, curling like smoke around them. A few brave souls tried to regain their composure, urging others to gather their thoughts. In the corner of the square, a woman fell to her knees, clutching her Bible as if it could shield her from fate itself. Pray! She shouted, her voice raw. Pray for mercy. And they did, some flinging their hands skyward, others murmuring or shouting desperate pleas. But no prayer could drown out the low rumble that began to pulse underfoot. It grew louder, leaving a resonance in their chests, matching the frenzied beat of their hearts. The streetlights flickered, then burst, one by one, plunging the square into darkness, save for the dim radiance of the blood moon overhead. Look! A voice cried out, pointing toward the archway leading to the Temple Mount. There, shadowy figures emerged, moving with purpose and slinking through the darkness. Panic ensued, a flood of bodies surging backward, as fear rippled through the crowd. Murmured questions filled the air. Who were they? Were they friends or foes? the shadows drew closer, and it became clear they were not alone. Figures cloaked in robes, faces obscured by hoods approached, carrying ancient-looking scrolls that seemed to glow ominously in the pale light. A sound like thunder echoed through the air, silencing the crowd. Every heart skipped, every breath paused, then, from amidst the sea of cloaks, a man stepped forward tall, imposing, with an aura that commanded the space. His eyes shone like embers, piercing through the crowd as he raised a hand, stilling the murmurs. "Listen!" he commanded, his voice deep and resonant. "The time has come for the great revelation. All your fears, all your doubts, they shall be answered tonight." Anguish cloaked the crowd, but the allure of answers beckoned them closer. Hope and horror coiled within their chests like snakes, overwhelming their senses. He gestured dramatically to the sky, where brilliant flashes of electricity illuminated faces twisted in awe and terror. "What does this mean for us?" shouted a voice from the back, quaking with trepidation. The man smiled, a chilling grin. "The final prophecy has begun. You must choose: will you fight or succumb to the tide of darkness? Your destiny awaits." His words hung in the air like a bitter promise, and the crowd swelled with a mixture of fear and fierce determination. Each person felt the weight of choice upon their shoulders, and a palpable tension electrified the atmosphere as everyone wondered what would come next. Suddenly, the ground trembled violently, throwing people off balance. A sound so profound erupted like a beast awakening from centuries of slumber, shaking the very foundations of the earth. Cries rose as the portents of the night unfolded in chaos. As the sky danced with fearsome colors, the man's voice cut through the chaos again. "Embrace your fate. The gates of Armageddon are opening." What lay beyond those gates? Could they get through this night alive? As panic spread like wildfire, one truth loomed: one way or another, they were on the brink of something unfathomable, and they could neither retreat nor hide. What would they find on the other side of the threshold? The crowd surged backward as the ground beneath them erupted with a shocking intensity. Dust and debris rained from the sky, and the air thickened with the acrid smell of fear and desperation. People screamed, their voices piercing the night. Parents grasped their children tightly, lovers clung to one another, fear etched across their faces. The man, still standing amidst the chaos, seemed unfazed. He raised his voice, his command cutting through the panic like a knife. "Stay strong. What you see is only the beginning. You must not falter. Armageddon dawns upon you, but you have the power to influence the outcome." His words were both daunting and exhilarating. Curiosity mixed with dread as murmurs spread through the crowd. They were both terrified and enraptured by the possibility of being part of this prophecy. Some people began to straighten their backs, emboldened by a flicker of defiance igniting within. "Fight or succumb" echoed through them. These were not just words, they were a call to action. But what did fighting truly mean? Were they to wage war against a physical force, or was it a battle against their own fears? A sudden rumble interrupted their thoughts. The ground shook violently again, and with it, an unnatural flash of light erupted from the Temple Mount, casting shadows that seemed to stretch and curl like tendrils searching for life. Smoke billowed from the archway, a dark entity slithering toward the gathered souls, and the crowd shrank back once more. "Look!" a young boy cried, pointing wide-eyed at a swirling mass of darkness, slowly revealed beneath the archway. It pulsated, seeming to seize the very air they breathed. It beckoned them closer with an unearthly whisper that wrapped around minds like a serpent. "What is that?" Some turned to flee, driven by instinct, while others remained frozen, their hearts thundering against the weight of the choice laid before them. The cloaked figures surrounding the commanding man stood still, like sentinels of this moment, absorbing the chaos that unfolded. In the giving moment, the man raised a hand, calling for silence once again. "Do not be afraid. What you see is only the surface of what lies beyond. Understand, each of you carries the potential to rewrite destiny itself. Within you also lies the darkness and lights to combat it." A woman in the crowd, clutching her son, stepped forward. "What do we need to do?" Her voice trembled, yet there was an unmistakable steel behind her question. Believe. Your unity must rise against despair. He bellowed, a fire igniting in his eyes. Trust in each other and know that our struggle is not with what we see but with the fears we have allowed to fester. As his words reverberated through the gathering throng, a flicker of hope began to emerge, piercing the shadows surrounding them. Hands tightened into fists. Some began to chant, rallying against the encroaching doom. Yet, doubt lingered, crawling through the cracks of resolve. Could they really fight against the shadows creeping into their lives? Was this a call to arms or merely the hype of a desperate man? Just then, a bone-chilling roar erupted from the archway. The darkness surged forward, breaking loose as a creature, a nightmare come to life, emerged from the depths. The crowd gasped collectively, feeling the air thicken, a palpable tension tightening their throats. People screamed and scrambled back, the wave of panic pushing harder. And from the depths of that darkness, a voice broke through, revealing its own chilling intent, making sure everyone would hear. Your time is up. You won't escape what you are. What terror lay ahead? Would they unite to face their fears, or would the shadows consume them before the dawn? As the creature advanced, dread and determination intertwined, each heartbeat echoing the truth that their fate was yet unwritten. What exactly was this creature after? And would they find the courage to confront it? The creature loomed large, its features shifting and morphing like smoke in the wind, impossible to pin down. Deep, guttural breaths emanated from it, filling the air with a rancid stench that made stomachs churn. The crowd's panic intensified, voices rising to a crescendo of fright and confusion, as they retreated further away from the nightmare that had sprung from the archway. What do we do? A man yelled from the back, desperation clawing at his throat. There's nowhere to run. The shadow moved closer, and with each step, it left an imprint of cold dread that settled deep in their chests. The young boy's wide eyes reflected a mix of terror and fascination. He couldn't tear his gaze away from the horror unfolding before them. Stand your ground. The man in command shouted, his voice rising above the chaos. You are stronger than this fear. His presence seemed to repel the nightmare, if only by a hair's breadth. He stepped forward, unwavering, locking eyes with the creature as if issuing a challenge. The crowd fell silent, hesitantly drawn to the man's bravery, considering whether this was reckless folly or courageous resolve. People began to inch forward, uncertainty battling with their newfound sense of unity, a pulse of collective hope tinged with fear. As if sensing that a shift had taken hold, the creature let out a howl that sent waves of agony rippling through the air, a sound that felt like it was splitting the very fabric of reality. It was both a warning and a taunt. You think you can defy your own darkness? It hissed, voice echoing with malice that chilled their bones. Don't listen. The woman, holding her son, pleaded, pulling him closer. We can't let it get into our heads. But doubt wormed through the crowd. Faces twisted in confusion as inner demons whispered seductive tales of defeat and despair. Was it true? Did they genuinely believe they could conquer those shadows of doubt planted in their hearts over the years? Together. The commanding man shouted, feeding off the flicker of courage igniting the crowd. We can banish it back into the void. He reached out in a gesture, beckoning them not just to follow, but to trust in one another, to stand tall against that which sought to divide. Focus on your strength. The love for one another. It was enough to spark a flame of unity among some. Hands nestled together in a truce, strangers became friends, the tension melting momentarily as fiery spirits clashed with icy despair. Yet, the creature loomed ever closer, a manifestation of every fear, betrayal, and regret lurking in their hearts. What if you fail? It taunted, eyes glowing with an unnatural light. Each heartbeat was a countdown. Time itself felt like sand slipping away within their grasp. The man raised his fists, heart pounding against the wall of silence. We must act now. The warmth began to spread, the shadows felt less oppressive. Fight! Someone yelled, emboldening the troops. For your family, for your future. But just as hope began to swell, the ground shook again violently, disrupting their stance. A real tremor threatened to upend the moment. Then, amidst the chaos, the creature exploded in a radiant flash, leaving the darkness momentarily illuminated but with a consuming void behind it. "Gather your strength!" the man yelled, and yet, there, a flicker of uncertainty darted through the crowd once more, a creeping dread settling back into hearts, and then, as if pure chaos wasn't enough, the ground split open, revealing an abyss that seemed to call out to each individual, offering a path to safety but at a cost. What lay at the bottom of that chasm? Was it true safety or simply a larger darkness waiting to consume them? The choice hung in the air, and in that moment, they were left at the precipice of oblivion. Would they leap into the unknown, trusting in one another? Or would they falter, allowing the shadows to swallow them whole, leaving only echoes of their despair? The chasm yawned before them, a gaping maw of uncertainty. The crowd shifted nervously, exchanging glances that reflected the same internal struggle. Some were frozen in fear, while others were compelled by the siren call of salvation. "Stay back!" the commanding man shouted, raising his arms. "Don't be lured by the abyss. It's a trick." But even as he pleaded, the shadows seemed to weave into their thoughts, igniting their deepest fears and desires. "What if this is our only chance?" a voice broke through the murmur. It was a woman, eyes wide with desperation. "What if we can't defeat it up here?" The crowd stirred with unease. "Fear isn't a choice," another voice chimed in. "This darkness is in all of us. Maybe we should just give and maybe we deserve it." With each word, conflict surged. The creature's ghastly shape pulsed in the dim light, feeding off their indecision. It shifted in form, sometimes appearing as a lost loved one, other times as a memory so painful it took their breath away. The spectators were entranced, some teetering on the edge of the chasm. "No!" the man's voice thundered, breaking through the haze. "We are not lost. We are a community. Without each other, we have nothing." He stepped closer to the abyss, drawing courage from the crowd. "What if you're wrong?" the creature hissed, its voice thick with malice. "What if you inherit a fate worse than death? I can offer peace. Release. No more fighting." It sounded tempting, laced with lies that curled like fog around their minds. "Trust in the light," the man cried, extending a hand to the crowd, his heart thudding hard against the ribs. "This darkness threatens to swallow us whole. Together, we can fight it. It thrives on your doubt." Slowly, the flicker of faith reignited within the crowd. They hesitated, the darkness whispering their failures and fears, but the warmth of connection sparked hope. Hands lifted, clasped, and held onto each other fervently. "Look at each other," a man shouted. "We're stronger together. We can help each other." The creature howled, agitated by their unity. It was a sound raw and primal, an echo of their innermost horror. The shadows danced like flames around the edges of the chasm, mocking the light that began to emerge from the crowd's bonds. "Fight back!" a young woman, voice trembling yet fierce, shouted. "For every scar, for every tear, we rise as one." The man took a step forward, determination shining in his eyes. To embrace one another in this moment was their only armor against the encroaching darkness. It was terrifying but exhilarating standing together against the perfidious grasp of despair. But even as they locked hands, bolstered by newfound resolve, the ground beneath them quaked violently. Cracks spiderwebbed across the earth, and the creature's form began to coalesce once more, blinding fury entwined with desperation. "Fools!" it bellowed, shaking the air with its rage. "You think you can overcome me? I am your truth, your memories made flesh." In response, the man clenched his fists, shouting against the shrieks of the creature. "Hold on tight. We will not fall." But the tremors escalated. The abyss yawned wider, its dark depths threatening to pull them in irrevocably. For every ounce of courage that unfurled, the creature's wrath grew in tempo, each roar resonating with their own anxieties. As their feet began to slip, despite their grip on each other, they faced a dismal choice. Would they break apart, let the shadows drag them to despair, or plunge into the chasm, trusting it was a passage to redemption? With hearts racing and hopes flickering, they stood on the edge of destiny, terrified yet resolute. They knew the creature's power, its voice, a chilling reminder of failures long past. But, a flicker of light shimmered somewhere in that abyss. What awaited them beyond the darkness? Destruction or salvation? As the fleeting moment paused, they were left balancing on the knife's edge, ready or maybe not to leap into the unknown. The ground roared beneath their feet, a visceral growl that mirrored the chaos in their hearts. The crowd, once united, was now quivering on the precipice of panic. Rumbles of doubt filled the air, sticky and suffocating. A sacrifice. Someone shouted suddenly, eyes wide with misguided hope. What if one of us offers themselves? No. The man's voice rang out, firm and unyielding like a lighthouse in the storm. This isn't the way. But even as he spoke, uncertainty unfurled like a dark shadow amongst them. We are not pawns, we are a family. The creature reveled in their discord. It twisted and churned, taking shapes that horrified and beguiled, flickering through memories of regret and moments stolen by time. You can change your fate. All you need is to let go. Just give in. Their fingers trembled as the abyss widened, a yawning mouth that seemed to hunger for despair. The young woman squeezed the hands of her neighbors tighter. She saw the fear in their eyes mirrored her own. We don't have to face this alone, she urged, desperation clinging to her voice. We fight, or we fall together. With that, a ripple of defiance cascaded through the crowd. One by one, they started chanting, their voices rising like a choir against the roar of the darkness. Together. Together. The creature writhed, its form undulating with rage and frustration. It emitted a piercing scream that cut through the chants, reverberating in their chests. You think your unity can save you? It shrieked, eyes flashing with venomous green. All this togetherness will only lead to your destruction. You are nothing without your fears. As if to prove its point, the earth beneath them splintered, and chunks of rock began to tumble into the abyss, swallowed by the darkness. Exclamations of terror erupted from the crowd, and the grip between them began to wane. Some turned, eyes wide and looking for escape. No. The man's rallying cry seemed to hang in the air for a heartbeat, echoing against the void. You have the power to define your fate. Don't let it steal your strength. Yet doubt slithered in, whispers began to draw some away. What if he's wrong? Someone murmured. What if the darkness truly is our fate? Their bond wavered, breaking under the weight of fear. Heartbeats thundered in the silence that followed, the cries receding into muffled gasps. Some were already stepping back, their minds clouded with uncertainty. The man could feel it, the fragile thread holding them together was unraveling, threatening to pull them into the very abyss they fought. You are more than this darkness. Fight back. Trust each other. He watched in horror as a young boy broke free of the circle, his eyes vacant and lost. I have to go. It's calling me. No. The man shouted, desperation and rage battling in his chest. Don't listen. It's a lie. It wants to take you. But the boy stumbled forward, drawn toward the void with an alarming inevitability. Shadows stretched out like fingers, beckoning him closer, promising sweet release from the torment. The air grew thick, heavy with tension as the rest of the crowd watched, frozen between instinct and hope. Time seemed to slow, every heartbeat screaming for action, yet fear screamed louder. Could they hold on to each other long enough to win? Or would one by one, they be picked off by the chasm, leaving only darkness in its wake? Just as the boy reached the edge, another figure lunged forward, a young woman, arms outstretched. I want to let you go. The crowd stirred, their eyes drawn toward the spectacle. The man felt his heart pound with a mix of dread and anticipation. Would they step up for each other? But then, just behind the chaos, a flash of light flickered in the abyss. It shone like a beacon, so unexpected yet tantalizing. What lay beneath that glowing surface? Hope, or something far more sinister? As the chasm threatened to claim the boy, desperation and will collided in the crowd. Whatever the truth, the moment was at hand. They had only to choose. Would they turn their backs on the chasm, or embrace the unknown, guided by that flicker of light? The air hung heavy with possibility, each breath a step toward irrevocable change. What choice would they make? And what would it mean for them all? The moment stretched, taut with uncertainty and swelling with emotion. The flickering light in the chasm pulsed like a heartbeat, drawing in the eyes of the crowd. It shimmered, weaving between hope and dread, tempting them with promises of clarity and salvation. The young woman's arms remained outstretched, the split-second decision magnified into a battle of wills. "Don't let go," she yelled, her voice slicing through the chaos. "We can pull him back." The boy hesitated, terror mingled with a strange allure. "But it's calling me. It feels safe." His voice trembled, vulnerability crackling in the air. "No!" a man shouted from the back, his face ghostly pale. "It's a trap. Don't believe it." Muffled gasps echoed among the crowd like the fluttering wings of frightened birds. The man, his heart drumming like thunder in his chest, knew they were at a critical moment. This was where fears could either bind or break them. "You're stronger than this darkness," he implored, his words wrapping around them like an anchor. "Together, we can fight it." But doubts crept in, clawing at their unity like a sickness. A child began to cry, the sound piercing through the thick air. "What if we fail?" someone whispered. "What if we're wrong?" The fear was palpable, a tangible force radiating in ripples, threatening to undo all their resolve. As the boy teetered at the edge, the crowd exploded into a cacophony of voices, some urging him to stay, others whispering treachery. Shadows twisted around the youth, dancing eagerly, promising him a liberation from his fears. Then the ground quaked violently. The chasm roared, opening wide with jagged teeth, seeming to hiss in delight as it swallowed yet another fragment of their strength. The young woman felt her heartbeat quicken, the thin thread of hope she clung to fraying under the pressure of despair. "I can feel it pulling me." The boy's eyes glazed over, entranced by the abyss. "It's so wonderful." "No. Fight it, please," the young woman shouted, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Don't you see the darkness? It will consume you." As if responding to her plea, the light pulsed with greater intensity, flickering between them. The creature in the void howled, its form seething and unpredictable. Why resist the inevitable? Embrace it. Your destiny is to be reborn. It taunted, voice like tendrils of smoke, wrapping around their resolve. The man stepped forward, noticing the glint of fire in his eyes, the strength of a leader rekindling. "We are the sum of our fates. We can change the narrative. I will not give in." In that moment, something shifted, the light in the chasm dimmed, almost flickering out at the man's fervor. The boy shuddered, the spell wavering. With desperation etched in every fiber of her being, the young woman reached for him. "You're not alone." Yet as she moved, a shadow lunged forward, sleek and malicious, grasping her wrist. It felt cold, biting deep as if it were drawing her into its depths. "Join me," it hissed. "Leave this pathetic hope behind." Her mind recoiled, fighting against the cold embrace of despair. "No," she gasped, wrestling free. But the creature's gaze had shifted to the light, it was hungry and desperate. "Will you choose despair?" it taunted, twisting the question like a knife. "Or will you grasp at the light?" Every heart pounded a frantic rhythm, pulses racing against the looming horror. The man glanced at the crowd, faces alight with the reflection of choices yet to be made. Who would falter first? Who would heed the call of darkness over the bonds they shared? With trembling lips, the young woman faced the boy, the creature, the darkness. Whatever it takes, she steadied her breath, igniting a flicker of defiance. Together, but just as the words escaped her lips, a violent tremor shook the ground again, more furious than before. The chasm bellowed, shaking loose rocks and earth. As the world blurred in a tempest of chaos around them, the question hung thick in the air: would they succumb to the abyss, or find the strength to embrace their flickering light? What would they decide as everything they knew unraveled? And in that harrowing moment of choice, something extraordinary flashed within the void. Something far more powerful than mere light. Something that would change everything. The light flickered violently, pulling at every heart in the crowd like a frayed rope at risk of snapping. Fight it! The man shouted again, his voice firm despite the rising terror. He took a step closer to the boy, eyes locked in a desperate plea. You're strong. Remember who you are. Just then, the shadow twisted and lashed out, reaching for the man with a speed that sent shivers down spines. An audible gasp rippled through the crowd like a wave. The young woman felt her breath hitch. Would it take him next? The boy's face wavered between the allure of the abyss and the desperate resolve in the man's eyes. Each pulse of light sent jolts through them all. We need to believe, screamed the woman, defiance ringing in her voice. We must hold on. With a sudden intensity, the boy swayed, caught in the magnetic pull of certainty and dread. But it promises so much, he cried out, desperation littering his tone. I could be free. Tears scalded the young woman's cheeks, but she pressed on. Freedom only exists in loyalty and love, not in surrender. Her words clung to the air, infused with a raw emotion that hung thickly around them. The crowd murmured, glances exchanging hope and fear. They could feel the chasm beckoning with its sinister whisper. Together, urged the man. Together is where our power lies. The ground shook violently again, throwing everyone off balance. A second tremor rippled through their souls, severing the tenuous bond stringing them together. Cries erupted, fear spread like wildfire. The cold shadow darted, snatching at minds, dismantling the fragile remnants of unity. What if we let it win? Someone's voice cracked, reflecting the inner turmoil of many. What if we're just fooling ourselves? Then we fail, countered the man, his face alight with purpose, standing firm like a sentinel against the encroaching dread. We are the sum of every single choice we make. Amidst the chaos, the boy's eyes flickered briefly, wrestling with clarity against the oppressive weight of the darkness enticing him. The young woman took a bold step forward, reaching out, guilt and fear edging at the corners of her consciousness. We're here, together. Don't you see? We're stronger than this. But the chasm belched another wave of energy, more ferocious than all before. Shadows swarmed around them, coiling in the air, laughing wickedly. You are weak. You are nothing. The boy trembled, the struggle visible on his face. An internal war waged in agonized silence. The shadow slithered cruelly, whispering promises of solace under its thick, suffocating veil. Let go of foolish dreams. Embrace who you were always meant to be. Threads of darkness ensnared the young woman now, too, tugging at her will. You can't save him. It hissed, almost mockingly. He craves power. No. She shouted defiantly, tearing her eyes away from the enticing void that threatened to plunge them into despair. Suddenly, it all became clear. The light's flicker was hope forged in unity. Look around you. Power means nothing without love. Without trust. We must fight for one another. The boy tore his gaze from the shadows, meeting her fiery determination square in the eyes. In that fleeting moment, a flicker of recognition ignited. Together? He echoed softly, the question heavy with possibility. Yes. The unison hung in the air, a hopeful thread bridging their spirits across the chaos erupting around them. But just as shift began to blossom, the ground erupted violently, sending them sprawling. The light dimmed, swallowed whole by the widening maw of the chasm. The shadows roared, enraged by their defiance. "You cannot resist!" it shrieked in fury, clenching its vengeful grasp. In that instant, the abyss threatened to consume their last strands of hope, and the onlookers braced for the worst. Would the boy fall into its darkness, or would he rise with them against the tide? As silence threatened to dismantle their newly forged resolve, a shadow uncoiled, revealing something, an ancient relic shimmering with energy not yet seen. Its pull was undeniable, its allure intoxicating, but what did it promise? And then, as moments hung in the air, the chaos stilled, leaving only a whisper: "Choose wisely, for your fate is sealed by the next step." The ancient relic pulsated with a strange energy, casting shimmering reflections on the faces in the crowd. It flickered like a beacon, calling them closer, enfolding them in a hazy dream where reality faded. The boy stood frozen, torn between the ancient power and the faces of those who cared. "Step back!" the man shouted, his arms outstretched as if to shield both the boy and the crowd from the relic's captivating glow. His voice thundered through the heavy silence, slicing through the wrapping allure. "Don't let it fool you." But the crowd was entranced. Eyes widened, hearts raced, and whispers flared. "What if it can save us?" someone murmured, hope dripping from every word. "What if we just have to reach out?" The shadows roared, thrashing against the bind of unity beginning to quilt itself amongst the people. "You think it can save you?" The dark mass sneered, slick and oily, slithering closer, desperation tainting every syllable. "It will swallow you whole. You dare to defy what you could become?" The boy's breath quivered as he swayed again, drawn towards the relic like a moth to a flame. The light beckoned and promised. He could feel it, the freedom, the escape from this agony that clawed at his heart. It was so close, so tantalizingly within reach. "Stay with us!" the young woman cried out, voice trembling as she grappled with her own fears that clawed at her insides. "You're not alone. We can face this together." He glanced back at their expectant faces, at the man who had fought bravely and the woman whose eyes shone with concern and resolve. Yet, the shadows thickened, their whirls growing darker, more insistent. "You will be stronger on your own," it hissed, the twisted whispers curling into his mind, squeezing his heart. "Give in. Embrace your true power." The ground underfoot fractured, spreading like a web of fractures, each crack deepening the sense of peril closing in. Dark tendrils breathed life into the chaos, snaking through the crowd, capturing their doubts, feeding on their insecurities. Shouts erupted again, raw panic threading through the air as people stumbled and fell, some clutching at fear, others fighting to rise. And then he saw it, the glint of the relic changing against the dark backdrop. It was both beautiful and terrifying, an embodiment of everything he longed to understand. But then he found his voice, sharp and clear, cutting through the turmoil. "You're right. Standing alone would be easier. But that's not who I am." He took a firm step back, holding the woman's gaze. "I want our strength. Not the shadows." The shadows shrieked in fury, churning into a whirlpool of chaos. "Fool!" they spat, "you will regret your choice." Just as the shadows lunged, the young woman shouted, "We are with you. In this together." With those words, the chilling air shifted. Light erupted again, blinding clarity blossomed in the hearts of the crowd. They gripped each other's hands tighter, forming an unbreakable chain of unity and strength. Moments stretched as the relic pulsed violently, rays scattering in all directions. "This isn't only my decision," the boy cried, voice reverberating. "This is ours." Suddenly there was a blinding flash, a rush of light, and then nothing. A heart-stopping stillness blanketed the area, pulling threads of dark and light into a vacuum. The crowd held its breath. Had they chosen right? Had they cast away the darkness, or merely postponed its inevitable grip? And there, suspended in that infinite silence, a single scream rang out, a cry of dread echoing ominously through the shadowed depths. The boy's allies turned to him, eyes wide. "What is happening?" the man gasped. Just then, the relic erupted in a dazzling explosion, the burst of energy shredding the void. And deep within the chaos, the shadows finally converged, reforming into something new, something oh so much worse. As the crowd stared in horror, the whispers grew louder, coiling themselves around hearts and minds. "You thought you were saved, but this is only the beginning." And in that breath of darkness, the boy understood. Their fight had only just begun. "Run!" he screamed, the weight of the darkness crashing upon them, but where would they go now? The ground shook again. The shadows prepared to strike. As the darkness loomed ever closer, another shimmering entity flickered in the distance. Was it hope? Or a deeper treachery still waiting to unfold? Choices loomed ahead, eluding their grasp. In the deep, swirling chaos, a flashlight danced across the horizon of darkness, revealing a flicker of hope just beyond the edge of the abyss. The crowd, still trembling from the chaos that had unfolded, exchanged fearful glances, but something sparked in their hearts. They had come too far to surrender now. "I can feel it," the boy gasped, pointing toward the light. "It's calling to us. We have to follow it." But the shadows recoiled and screeched, twisting around the crowd, echoing the doubts and insecurities that nestled deep within their hearts. "You can't escape. You are trapped in your own darkness." They jeered, venom dripping from each word. "No!" the commanding man shouted, stepping forward, face set like stone. "Your darkness does not define you." He locked eyes with each member of the crowd, his unwavering spirit igniting a fire in their very souls. "Together, we can rewrite this story. We must trust in the light." With those words, the flickering flame of hope grew brighter. From deep within, the group felt a swell of unity, gripping each other's hands tighter, realizing that their power lay in their connection. "We can do this!" cried the young woman, her voice rising like a phoenix freed from its ashes. "Together, we're unstoppable." The darkness hissed again, its rage unmistakable. "Fools! You cannot stand against what you are. You belong to me." But the crowd surged forward, their feet finding rhythm, each step echoing with resolve. They chanted, "Together! Together!" A chorus of voices, a wall of determination, a wave against the tide of despair, the shimmering light pulsed stronger, beckoning them closer, illuminating their path ahead. Daring to move toward the edge of the chasm, they felt warmth envelop them, a radiance that promised salvation. The shadows writhed and snaked, choking on their own fury, but the crowd pressed on, their collective heartbeat thrumming in unison, growing louder. Then, the boy took a bold step forward, feeling elation rush through him. "I won't let go!" he shouted, determination blazing in his voice that left no room for doubt. "We are more than our fears. We can be courageous. Together." With every heartbeat, the light drew nearer, swelling with energy, wrapping around the group like a protective cocoon. The shadows shrieked, slamming against their unity, but their voices fell silent under the unwavering strength of love and trust. That in a moment that felt like forever, the light exploded outward, fracturing the trodden darkness into shimmering pieces, transforming dread into beauty. The crowd closed their eyes, feeling their spirits rise, buoyed by the sheer force of their shared commitment. Suddenly, the chasm resisted, its edges boiling over like a tidal wave aimed to pull them in. The man raised his arms once more, his voice resonating in the chaotic void. "We stand for each other. For every lost battle, for every hard-fought truth. We are a family." The crowd mirrored his call, voices entwining beyond mere words. "We are a family. We are stronger together." As if in response, the shadows screamed in agony, their form quaking, losing their grip on reality, slowly eroding into nothingness. The light burst forth like a supernova, blazing a path through the darkness, illuminating every fear and every doubt, shattering them like glass. With one last defiant roar, the shadows evaporated, and silence washed over the crowd. The ground beneath them steadied, and the chaos that had threatened their unity began to dissipate, revealing a breathtaking landscape bathed in light. They stood together, panting, glancing at the faces that had come to mean life and love in a world so steeped in turmoil. No longer were they alone, they had forged connections that would last a lifetime. The boy gazed at the others, and their eyes were filled with determination. "We did it. Together, we fought the darkness." Hope soared through them like a fresh breeze. As they began to walk forward, a new horizon awaited them, nothing less than a new dawn, one where fear would remain but not dictate their lives. They knew it would take strength to face future challenges, but they would always remember this night, this lesson learned in unity. They turned to the shimmering archway, a portal to endless possibilities and brighter tomorrows. Hand in hand, they stepped forward into unfathomable light, ready for all that lay ahead, bound by love, and the promise of hope. "Remember," the man said softly, "the light is always with us, as long as we stand together." And with that, their journey continued, a testament to the power of unity, a glowing reminder that in every shadow, light waits to be found. Now, as we wrap up this incredible journey, I need you to take action. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss out on the next explosive stories that will deepen your experience. This is the moment to show your support by smashing that like button now. It truly helps feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. What a night it's been, huh? Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your engagement makes all the difference. It connects us and builds our community. Let's keep this incredible journey going together.